G'day, hi and welcome. I'm about to make the most controversial video in guitar history. Well, maybe not. I don't know. But I do know how this goes. I post something and I get the, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just a noob. You cannot have a different opinion than me. But what you're looking at here is my Mark Holcomb SE PRS signature series. And this might be, I know I've already kind of made a video on this, but this might be the best PRS metal guitar out there. Now I can't say I tried every model. Like, I mean, that would be very disingenuous of me to say that. But I can tell you I have tried quite a few PRS models, and it's kind of dark where it's sitting there, but anyway, for the video, it'll be fine. This is going to be a talking video anyway, so. Hear me out. Hear me out. Okay, so the stand it's sitting on came from the very first guitar I bought when I was my mom bought it for me in a yard sale next door when I was 5, and it was a little K guitar, and I still have that guitar stand, which I shouldn't use because it's all metal. It could scratch the crap out of everything, but I'm very gentle with it. Gotta put my guitars on something, right? And from that K guitar to this, boy, is there ever a world of difference. And that is over 45 years ago. That last when I got that other guitar. I no longer have it, but I've went through a lot of guitars, guys. This is guitar number 54. I think is this the last guitar I bought? I think it is. Yeah, it is the last guitar I bought. As I bought the guitar and the Ibanez bass at the same time about a year ago. I just did a 1-year review on this guitar, and of course, I gave it raving reviews because it is a really, really darn good guitar. But what sets it apart from other PRSs is not just the 20 degree radius, or the 20. What do I keep saying? I keep saying radius or 20 degree. The 20. Yeah, a 20-degree radius. Or 12-inch radius. Sorry, I know I kind of mess up on that. Yeah, degrees, 20 degrees would be quite extreme. So the 20-inch radius. So I know somebody pointed out that I kind of screwed up on that, but you guys know what I'm talking about. The flatness of the fretboard. It's basically like. I think it's the wave of the future. You're going to see a lot more guitars going with flatter and flatter fretboards for the metal guys. The thing about this guitar is that it's definitely got the most aggressive pickups of any PRS probably ever built. The Alpha and Omega is a very hot pickup. It's like 16,000 K ohms, resistance on that sucker. So when you plug that in, you can't just plug it into any amp and expect it to sound good, because they're so hot that, like for example, my Fender Hot Rod Deluxe, it's sitting above it there. That amp playing straight through the amp with my Gibson SGs with the classic 57s and 57 pluses in it, which are about medium, 8,000, 9,000 K output, about half of what these things are, is fine. It drives the tubes just fine and whatever. This thing sounds like it's trying to murder your amp because it's just such a hot internal signal. Every note sounds like it's about to blow. It overpeaks the signal, right? Like there's no playing quietly. It essentially turns every amp into a Dynatouch, if you know what I'm talking about. But not in a good way. Not in the good way. It's like the ultimate note blurbing. So why would you want pickups this hot? Well, there's 2 reasons. Number one is you have pickups that are really, really hot, gives you a lot of drive. It's darker, it's more metal, you know what I mean? But, like you can use less gain and still get more gain, which means clearer. So when you clear up the sound on this, like if I go full, I'm one of those guys that I do like the Niagara Falls distortion sound, you know what I mean, where just as much as I can get away with. But usually you get muddiness, right? With these pickups, you don't get the muddiness. You get all the distortion, but without the muddiness. So it sounds really crazy, especially through the Mesa Boogie. Like it's just, I can't wait to play this thing on stage live because it's just going to blow people's mind how crazy this guitar sounds. But you have to play it compressed. I've said it. High output pickups. Anything hotter than your standard PRS pickups. Even the core models, they don't have like crazy output pickups. Like they have adequate. They're high output, but they're not insane like this, right? So the advantage you get with these high insane output pickups is just the saturation levels you get, but the clarity you have when you can oversaturate, which sounds really cool. Because when you don't have that kind of saturation, uh, because you get extra drive when you compress, you get extra drive off the pickups being so hot. It drives the distortion even more, right? But again, you still retain the clarity. Where if you don't have that output and you try to match the distortion, what you end up is with a pickups that can't really push that distortion naturally. You know what I mean? Where these will just naturally distort an amp because of the hot signal. People should understand how that works. The hotter the pickup, the more the more you're going to peak things, right? So when you get a natural distortion, uh, it's clearer. It's a lot clearer, right? So what happens is it allows you to get more is more, more is more, but you don't get muddy. You don't lose all the clarity and definition, and it doesn't just feed back on you and all that crazy stuff. You have a lot of control over the playing. So that's why I say this might be the best bang for the buck pro guitar on the market right now because of what you get. Now, for those that don't believe in tone woods or anything like that, that's fine. But it does matter how much in the mix. I don't know. And some people, well, the only thing that matters is the mix, and I'll 100% disagree with that. For recording artists out there, you spend probably 90% of your time playing your guitar, not recording it. You know what I mean? So this is where like with the Glenn Frick from Spectre Studios, where he's like, the guitar doesn't really matter that much in the mix. He is right in that context for sure, especially when you're talking metal. It doesn't matter that much, but it does matter. Live, it matters. That's where I'll disagree with him, wholeheartedly. In the mix live, trust me, if I get on the stage with this, or I get on the stage with a really cheap guitar with very low output pickups, everybody's going to say that thing sounds better. And it's not just me justifying my purchase. It sounds better. Better's better. You know what I mean? The tone wood. Well, mahogany does give you that dark. And some people, well, I want to see some scientific proof of this. There are, if you really look, you will find there are frequency graphs that kind of pretty much what everybody says about it. It's a dark sounding wood with a higher mid range that cuts through with a lot of sustain, right? So that's pretty much what it is. That's mahogany in a nutshell. Ash is about a little bit not quite as dark as mahogany, but very similar, right? And then you got alder, which is like really bright and punchy. Doesn't have quite the mid range cut through, but it has the punchiness and the brightness, whatever. So with the maple cap, maple being more bright, you get the best of both worlds. You get a bit of brightness off the maple, and plus with the maple neck, you get a bit of brightness off that. Plus the ebony fingerboard, you get a little bit extra brightness off of that. But with like the fingerboards, what I've noticed with my ears in the mix or not is that rosewood tends to be very mid-oriented, cut through, great for guitar solos and stuff like that, very angry sounding, but loses out on that heavy kind of punchy sound, where maple gives you a really bright sound all around. Sounds really great for guitar solos and stuff like that. Very lively for classic rock, metal, like the Van Halen sound, if you want to kind of call it that. And then ebony is kind of like in between. It kind of has the best of the rosewood, where it has that kind of angry sound, but it also has a more natural sculpted mid sound. So it just sounds so much warmer. And then of course it's bright it's bright like maple, right? But I find like if you want a really great sounding mid rhythm guitar, mahogany body, maple neck, ebony fingerboard. If you want to, good sounding leads, like again, this guitar sounds phenomenal for rhythm or leads. But if you really want that kind of dark, natural sculpted mid sound, ebony fingerboard will do it for you all the time. And I noticed this from playing them, and then not just it's just in the room and whatever. It's like no, you hear it through the speakers. You hear it through, especially if you play through a really good PA. You're gonna notice that. Will you notice it in the mix with a double track guitar with stereo chorus and water Niagara Falls of distortion on it? Maybe not as much, but you will notice it when you're playing it live. Now that said, the playability of this guitar, again, it's the only guitar I know that has a wet sanded neck. That's like it's the smoothest neck ever. Might not be everybody's cup of tea for the profile, but it is one of those things. If you live with it for a little while, that neck really does spoil you because it's narrow enough to do really crazy. If like every jazz musician can play this, like play outrage, Andy Summers style chords on it. Even though he's not not a jazz player, but you get the idea. You could do these really extravagant 9 chords, 11 chords, 13 chords, whatever, all that stuff, right? Because it's narrow enough, but yet it's flat enough and wide enough that shredded to shred with. So if you want to do your Yngwie stuff, you can do that too. And then if you just want to lace into it and chunk into it, you got the 25.5 scale, so that gives you a little bit more of that bottom end punch, right? But the thing about this guitar is the price. Now, I don't think you can get these guitars new anymore unless there's a few sitting around in stock